What would you do if you found your K9 partner, the one you watched die in your arms 3 years ago, standing alive in a research facility but looking at you like you were a complete stranger? That's exactly what happened to Navy SEAL veteran Axel Thompson when an anonymous tip led him to a classified government facility where impossible experiments were taking place on donated military working dogs. But what he discovered in Laboratory 7 wasn't just his beloved Rex. It was evidence of the most horrific betrayal in military history and proof that some of America's most heroic K9s never actually died in combat. This is the true story of Project Silent Shepherd, a government program that stole war heroes with 4 legs, erased their memories, and turned them into test subjects. And the moment when "Good Boy Rex" became the 3 words that could either restore a sacred bond or destroy what was left of Axel's faith in everything he'd served. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your location in the comments, and if you believe that loyalty deserves loyalty in return, hit that like button. You're going to need every bit of courage you have for this one, because some betrayals cut deeper than enemy fire, and some reunions hurt more than goodbyes. Now let's begin. Afghanistan, 2021. The memory still haunted Axel Thompson every night, holding Rex, his K9 partner of 4 years, as the Belgian Malinois took his final breath after stepping on an IED meant for Axel's squad. "I'm sorry, boy," Axel had whispered into Rex's fur as the helicopter medics shook their heads. "I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you." Rex had looked up at him with those intelligent amber eyes one last time, struggled to lick Axel's face, and then gone still. The military veterinarian had pronounced him dead at 14:47 hours. Axel had personally supervised Rex's body being loaded into the transport for return to the States, where he would be buried with full military honors. That was 3 years ago. Today, in his Montana cabin with Scout, Ranger, and Angel sleeping peacefully by the fireplace, Axel stared at the framed photo on his mantel. Rex in full tactical gear, sitting at perfect attention beside a younger version of himself outside a forward operating base in Kandahar. "Miss you every day, partner," he said quietly, as he did every morning. His satellite phone rang, interrupting the ritual. The caller ID showed a blocked number. "Thompson. Axel Thompson, Navy SEAL, formerly partnered with K9 Rex." The voice was male, nervous, speaking in whispers. "Who is this?" I can't tell you my name, but I work at a government facility in Nevada, and I have information about military working dogs that you need to hear." Axel's blood ran cold. "What kind of information?" "The kind that's going to destroy your world. Project Silent Shepherd. They didn't die, Axel. The dogs everyone thinks died in combat. They didn't die. They were taken." "Taken where?" "Yucca Mountain Research Facility, Laboratory 7, and Axel, Rex is alive." The phone went dead. Axel stared at the device for 30 seconds, his military training warring with 3 years of grief. This was impossible. He'd held Rex's lifeless body, he'd attended the funeral, he'd visited the gravesite at Lackland Air Force Base, but the caller had known details only someone with inside knowledge could know. Scout, Ranger, and Angel had all awakened and were staring at him with the intense focus they showed when they sensed something wrong. These 3 dogs had helped him heal from losing Rex, but they'd never replaced the bond he'd shared with his military partner. That evening, Axel made a decision that would either prove he was losing his mind or uncover the most horrific military scandal in modern history. He booked a flight to Nevada. 48 hours later, Axel Thompson stood outside the Yucca Mountain Research Facility with military-grade night vision equipment, lockpicking tools, and a heart pounding with 3 years of suppressed grief and growing rage. The facility was supposedly a geological research station, but the razor wire, armed guards, and classified vehicle access suggested otherwise. Using skills learned in 8 years of special operations, Axel bypassed perimeter security and accessed the main building through a ventilation system. The facility was a maze of sterile corridors and numbered laboratories, but he followed the sound of dogs barking deeper into the complex. Laboratory 7 was at the end of a heavily secured corridor. Through the reinforced glass window, Axel saw something that stopped his heart. Kennels, Dozens of kennels filled with dogs in various states of distress, but these weren't just any dogs. These were clearly military working dogs. German Shepherds, Belgian Malinois, Dutch Shepherds, all breeds used by special forces. And in Kennel 23, lying on a metal surgical table with electrodes attached to his head, was a dog that looked exactly like Rex. Same build, same coloring, same distinctive white patch on his left ear that Axel had kissed goodbye 3 years ago. But when the dog opened his eyes and looked directly at the window where Axel stood, there was no recognition, no joy, no memory. Just the empty, confused stare of an animal who had been stripped of everything that made him who he was. Axel's hands shook as he reached for his phone to photograph the evidence, but before he could take a single picture, he heard footsteps behind him. "Mr. Thompson," said a voice with cold military authority, "you're not supposed to be here." Axel turned to face Dr. Sarah Hendricks, according to her nameplate, a woman in her 50s wearing a lab coat and flanked by 2 armed security guards. "That's my partner in there," Axel said, his voice deadly calm despite the rage building inside him. "Rex died in Afghanistan. I held him as he died." Dr. Hendricks smiled without warmth. "Rex was severely injured, yes, but our field teams have become quite skilled at simulating death when necessary. Rex didn't die, Mr. Thompson. He was recruited." "Recruited for what?" "Project Silent Shepherd, memory suppression research. We're developing techniques to help traumatized military working dogs forget their combat experiences and be repurposed for other operations." The words hit Axel like physical blows. "You stole him. You let me think he was dead for 3 years while you tortured him." "We're helping him. Rex was suffering from severe PTSD. Now he's calm, manageable, and ready for new assignments without the emotional baggage of his previous partnerships." Axel looked back through the window at Rex, his Rex, lying motionless on that table, and realized that everything he'd believed about honor, loyalty, and military service was a lie. "I'm taking him home," Axel said quietly. Dr. Hendricks gestured to the security guards. "I'm afraid that's not possible. Rex is government property. And now that you've seen classified operations, Mr. Thompson, you're not leaving either." But Dr. Hendricks had made one critical error. She'd underestimated what a Navy SEAL with nothing left to lose was capable of, and she'd forgotten that some bonds, even ones that have been surgically erased from one side, are stronger than any government program. The war for Rex's soul was about to begin. What happened in the next 30 minutes redefined what Axel Thompson thought he knew about warfare. The security guards approaching him weren't just facility personnel. They were former military, moving with tactical precision and carrying military-grade weapons. But they'd made the same mistake many people made when facing a Navy SEAL. They assumed they had the advantage. Axel had spent 8 years learning how to neutralize threats in impossible situations. 2 guards in a narrow corridor wasn't impossible. It was Tuesday. The engagement lasted 47 seconds. When it was over, both guards were unconscious, their weapons secured, and Dr. Hendricks was staring at Axel with a mixture of fear and grudging respect. "You don't understand what you're interfering with," she said, backing against the laboratory door. Project Silent Shepherd has saved hundreds of military working dogs from PTSD-induced euthanasia. By erasing their memories and turning them into lab rats, Axel moved toward the door controls. By stealing them from their partners and letting those partners grieve for years? By giving them new lives free from trauma. Axel paused at the laboratory entrance. "Tell me something, doctor. If Rex was so traumatized, why is his file marked as exceptional performance and recommended for continued service?" Dr. Hendricks's face went pale. "How could you possibly know what's in his file?" "Because I just read it." Axel held up a tablet he'd taken from one of the unconscious guards. Rex wasn't suffering from PTSD. Rex was scheduled for retirement with full honors, but according to this, he was flagged as ideal candidate for advanced conditioning protocols 2 weeks before his supposed death. The truth was worse than Axel had imagined. Project Silent Shepherd wasn't rescuing traumatized dogs, it was stealing the most exceptional military working dogs at the peak of their careers, faking their deaths and experimenting on them. "How many?" Axel demanded, studying the tablet's data. "How many dogs did you steal?" 47 over the past 5 years, Dr. Hendricks admitted. "All dogs with exemplary service records, strong bonds with their handlers, and advanced training that would be difficult to replicate. 47 families think their partners are dead. 47 dogs are contributing to research that will revolutionize military canine operations. Axel accessed the laboratory door and stepped inside. The smell hit him immediately. Antiseptic, fear, and something else, the absence of hope. Rex lay on the surgical table, electrodes monitoring his brain activity while a computer screen displayed complex neural patterns. Up close, there was no doubt. This was his partner. Same scar on his right paw from a training accident. Same habit of tilting his head slightly to the left when curious. But when Axel approached, Rex showed no recognition, no excitement, no memory of 4 years of shared missions, shared dangers, shared trust. "Rex?" Axel said softly, using the tone that had always brought his partner to immediate attention. Rex opened his eyes but showed only mild interest, as if looking at a stranger. "They call him Subject 23 now," Dr. Hendricks said from the doorway. "His previous identity has been completely suppressed. He has no memory of his military service, his training, or you." Axel reached toward Rex, and the dog allowed the touch but showed no special response. It was like petting a friendly stranger's dog, pleasant but meaningless. "What did you do to him?" "Targeted memory suppression combined with behavioral conditioning. We can selectively erase specific memories while leaving basic functions intact. Subject 23 retains his physical abilities and basic training but has no emotional attachments to his previous life. His name is Rex." "Not anymore." That's when Axel noticed something that changed everything. In the corner of the laboratory sat a box labeled Personal Effects, Subject 23. Inside, he could see Rex's service collar, his favorite rope toy, and something that made Axel's throat tighten, a photo of the two of them together that Rex had carried in his tactical vest during missions. "You kept his things," Axel said quietly. "Standard protocol. Sometimes personal items trigger memory recovery, which complicates the conditioning process." Axel picked up Rex's service collar and held it where Rex could see it. For just a moment, maybe 5 seconds, something flickered in Rex's eyes. Not full recognition, but confusion, like trying to remember a dream. He's starting to remember, Axel realized. Impossible. The conditioning is permanent. But Axel had seen it. Rex was in there somewhere, locked behind the conditioning, but still fighting to get out. "Rex," Axel said, holding the collar closer. "Do you remember the mission in Kandahar? You saved my squad from an ambush. You found the IED before it could kill us all." Rex tilted his head, the old gesture, and whined softly. Not the sound of a dog in distress, but the sound Rex used to make when he was trying to solve a puzzle. Dr. Hendricks was studying the computer monitors with growing alarm. "His neural patterns are shifting. This shouldn't be possible." Axel continued talking, sharing specific memories, using words and phrases that had special meaning between him and Rex. And with each memory, Rex became more agitated, more confused, but also more present. "Stop," Dr. Hendricks commanded. "You're damaging years of conditioning. If you continue, you could cause him to have a complete psychological breakdown." "Good," Axel replied. "Maybe that's what it takes to break through your brainwashing." That's when the laboratory alarm began blaring, and Axel realized they were no longer alone. Through the laboratory windows, he could see armed security personnel surrounding the facility. "You're not leaving with Subject 23, Dr. Hendricks said. "This research is classified at the highest levels. Both of you will remain here." But Axel was looking at Rex, who was now sitting up on the surgical table, staring at the service collar with an expression of intense concentration. The dog was fighting against the conditioning, trying to remember who he used to be. "Come on, boy," Axel whispered, using the phrase that had always meant mission time between them. "Come on, Rex, remember who you are." And then, for the first time in 3 years, Rex looked directly into Axel's eyes with recognition. Not complete memory, but recognition. The flicker of a bond that had been buried but not destroyed. "That's my good boy," Axel said, tears streaming down his face. Rex jumped down from the surgical table and moved to Axel's side, assuming the protective position he'd held during hundreds of missions. The conditioning was breaking down, memories were surfacing, and somewhere in his canine mind, Rex was remembering that this human was his partner. But the reunion was interrupted by the sound of the laboratory door being blown open. The real battle for Rex's freedom was about to begin. Part 3. The Awakening. The tactical team that stormed Laboratory 7 wasn't expecting to face a Navy SEAL with a partially recovered military working dog and 3 years of suppressed rage. They were expecting to contain a security breach and retrieve stolen government property. They got a war. Take them both alive, the team leader commanded as 6 armed soldiers flooded into the laboratory. Subject 23 is irreplaceable, and Thompson has classified intelligence we need to contain. But Rex, his memories fragmentary but his instincts intact, heard the threat in the commanding voice and reacted with 4 years of combat training that no amount of conditioning could completely erase. The Belgian Malinois launched himself at the nearest soldier with the precision of a guided missile, taking down a man twice his size and disrupting the entire formation. In that split second of chaos, Axel moved. What followed was the kind of close-quarters combat that had made Navy SEALs legendary. But this time, Axel wasn't fighting alone. Rex, confused, partially amnesiac, but fiercely protective of the human, his instincts told him to defend, fought beside him with gradually awakening tactical awareness. "Rex, cover left," Axel shouted during the engagement, using an old command. Rex hesitated for half a second, then moved to protect Axel's left flank with the precision that had made them one of the most effective SEAL K-9 teams in Afghanistan. The muscle memory was still there. Dr. Hendricks watched in horror as her perfectly conditioned subject reverted to his military training. "This is impossible," she whispered into her radio. "Subject 23's conditioning should prevent any aggressive behavior toward authorized personnel." "Maybe," Axel said, subduing the last soldier. "You never understood what you were trying to erase." Rex sat at Axel's side, panting but alert, his eyes showing more clarity than they had since the reunion began. The combat had triggered something deeper than memory. It had triggered trust. "The bond between a handler and his K-9 isn't just trained behavior," Axel continued, looking directly at Dr. Hendricks. "It's forged in shared danger, mutual dependence, and absolute loyalty. You can suppress memories, but you can't erase soul connections." That's when Axel heard something that changed everything. Barking, not from Rex, but from deeper in the facility. "There are others, aren't there?" Axel demanded. "Other dogs who remember their partners." Dr. Hendricks looked at her unconscious security team and made a decision that would either save the project or destroy it. Level B5, 46 more subjects in various stages of conditioning. Some are more resistant to the process than others. "You mean some remember their handlers? Some refuse to forget despite our best efforts." Axel looked at Rex, who was staring down the corridor toward the sounds of distressed dogs. His partner's ears were up, his body language indicating he recognized something about those barks. "They're calling for help, aren't they?" Axel asked Rex. "Your fellow warriors are trapped down there." Rex looked up at Axel, and for the first time since the reunion, gave the short, sharp bark that had always meant yes during their missions. More memory was returning. "We can't save them all," Dr. Hendricks said desperately. "Even if you could get past the security systems, the conditioning process is irreversible for most of them, and the military will hunt you down for stealing classified assets." "They're not assets," Axel replied, moving toward the laboratory door. "They're heroes who were betrayed by the country they served." The journey to level B5 became a gauntlet of security systems, armed guards, and Rex's gradually awakening memories. With each corridor they navigated, each obstacle they overcame together, more of Rex's personality returned. When they encountered a locked blast door, Rex instinctively moved to the position where he'd always provided security while Axel worked on technical problems. When motion sensors threatened to trigger alarms, Rex naturally took point, using skills he'd thought were gone forever. "You remember the hand signals," Axel said with wonder as Rex responded to tactical commands. Rex tilted his head in that familiar gesture and made a soft sound that was pure Rex, the vocalization he'd always used when he was thinking hard about a problem. Level B5 was a nightmare that would haunt Axel for the rest of his life. 46 military working dogs in various stages of psychological breakdown. Some sat motionless, their spirits completely broken. Others paced frantically, their conditioning fighting against buried memories. A few barked continuously, not in distress, but in defiance. But it was Kennel 7 that stopped Axel's heart. A German shepherd that looked exactly like Max, his friend Jake Morrison's canine partner who had died in Syria 2 years ago. Jake had left the military after Max's death, unable to cope with the loss. "Max?" Axel whispered. The German shepherd's head snapped up, and for a moment his eyes held the same recognition that was growing stronger in Rex. Rex moved to the kennel and began making soft, comforting sounds, not the trained vocalizations of a conditioned subject, but the natural communication between military working dogs who had shared similar experiences. And then something extraordinary happened. Max responded, not with the empty compliance of a conditioned animal, but with the intelligent acknowledgement of a soldier recognizing a fellow warrior. They remember each other, Axel realized. The dogs remember their brothers and sisters, even when they can't remember their handlers. That's when the facility's emergency systems activated, sealing level B5 with blast doors designed to contain any security breach. Over the intercom, Dr. Hendrix's voice carried both threat and desperation. "Mr. Thompson, you have 30 minutes before this level fills with sedative gas. Surrender now, and I'll ensure you and Rex are treated humanely. Continue this futile rescue attempt, and all 48 dogs will be terminated to protect classified research." Axel looked at Rex, who was staring at the kennels full of stolen heroes with an expression of growing understanding and rage. "What do you think, partner?" Axel asked. "Do we leave our brothers behind?" Rex looked up at Axel and gave the sharp, decisive bark that had always meant mission accepted during their 4 years together. For the first time since the reunion, Rex's eyes held the full intelligence, loyalty, and determination that had made him one of the most decorated military working dogs in SEAL history. The final battle wasn't going to be fought for Rex's freedom. It was going to be fought for the freedom of 47 stolen heroes who deserved to go home. 28 minutes until the sedative gas would kill 47 military heroes. But Axel Thompson wasn't thinking like a Navy SEAL anymore. He was thinking like a pack leader with 47 loyal warriors waiting for orders. "Rex, Bedese, Bompe," as he said, looking into the eyes of his fully recovered partner. "Remember the Kandahar prison break, when we freed those captured rangers?" Rex's tail moved once, a subtle wag that meant he not only remembered but understood what Axel was suggesting. Working together with the tactical precision that had made them legendary, Axel began systematically opening kennels while Rex moved from dog to dog, using vocalizations and body language that somehow communicated mission time in a language older than human conditioning. The response was miraculous. Dogs that had been catatonic suddenly lifted their heads. Animals that had paced frantically found focus. Warriors that had been broken by psychological torture began remembering who they were meant to be. Max, the German shepherd from Kennel 7, was the first to fully respond. The moment his kennel opened, he moved to Rex's side and assumed a tactical position that spoke of years of coordinated military operations. Then Bruno, a Dutch shepherd who had died in Iraq. Then Sarge, a Belgian Malinois who had served 3 tours before his death in Somalia. One by one, 47 stolen heroes began to remember not just their training, but their purpose. "Sir," Rex barked once, using the attention command that meant awaiting orders. Axel looked at the assembled pack of military working dogs, some of the most elite canine warriors America had ever produced, and realized he was no longer conducting a rescue. He was commanding the most extraordinary military unit ever assembled. "Listen up," he said, using the tone that had commanded respect in the most dangerous situations. "Sedative gas deploys in 25 minutes. Security teams are positioned at all exits. The odds are 48 to 1, but we faced worse." Rex moved to point position. Max flanked right. Bruno covered left. 44 other dogs arranged themselves in perfect tactical formation without a single human command. The muscle memory of brotherhood was stronger than any conditioning. Dr. Hendrix watched through security cameras as the impossible unfolded before her eyes. "It's not possible," she whispered to her remaining staff. "Years of conditioning, billions in research, how are they reverting so completely?" What she was witnessing wasn't reversion, it was resurrection. The assault on the security teams was unlike anything in military history. 47 dogs led by Axel and Rex moved through the facility like a coordinated special forces unit. Every door they encountered, every guard position they faced was neutralized with the precision of a pack that had trained together for years. But they hadn't trained together. They were operating on pure military instinct, brotherhood loyalty, and the shared understanding that no warrior gets left behind. Level by level, they fought their way toward freedom. And with each victory, each successful breach, the dogs became more of who they used to be and less of what they'd been conditioned to become. When they reached the main laboratory where Project Silent Shepherd's research data was stored, Axel made a decision that would expose the conspiracy to the world. "Rex, secure the perimeter," he ordered, while downloading terabytes of classified files proving the government's theft of military heroes. Rex and the pack formed a defensive circle while Axel gathered evidence that would eventually lead to congressional hearings, criminal prosecutions, and the complete dismantling of Project Silent Shepherd. The final confrontation came at the facility's main exit, where Dr. Hendricks waited with the last of her security forces. "You can't leave with classified assets," she said, desperation clear in her voice. "These dogs contain years of research data. They're property of the United States government." Axel looked at Rex, who was standing proud and alert at his side, fully himself for the first time in 3 years. He looked at Max, Bruno, Sarge, and 44 other heroes who had been stolen from their families and tortured in the name of science. "You're right," Axel said. "They are property of the United States government, but not as research subjects, as decorated veterans who earned their freedom through service to their country." Rex barked once, the command bark that meant execute mission. What followed was the most coordinated canine assault in military history. 47 dogs moving as one pack overwhelmed the remaining security forces with such tactical precision that no shots were fired and no injuries occurred. They weren't attacking enemies, they were simply going home. 6 months later, Rex sat beside Axel's hospital bed, wearing the Congressional Medal of Honor that had been awarded to both of them for exposing Project Silent Shepherd. The bullet wound Axel had received during their escape had healed, but more importantly, so had the 3-year wound in both their hearts. "The Congressional Committee wants to interview us again next week," Axel told Rex, scratching behind his partner's ears in the spot that had always been their private signal of affection. Rex made the soft rumbling sound that meant understood and approved. Around the country, 46 other military working dogs were experiencing their own reunions. Jake Morrison had cried for 6 straight hours when Max was returned to him. The Henderson family had held a second homecoming party when Bruno walked through their front door. Every single stolen hero had been returned to their families, but the most important reunion was happening every day in Axel's cabin, where Scout, Ranger, and Angel had welcomed Rex as the 4th member of their pack. The Midnight Brotherhood had become the Midnight Squad, and their search and rescue operations now included Rex's specialized skills in explosive detection and tactical operations. "You know what the best part is?" Axel said to Rex as they watched Scout, Ranger, and Angel playing in the yard outside his window. Rex tilted his head in the gesture that meant, "Tell me." "We didn't just get you back. We got 46 other families their heroes back. We proved that some bonds are stronger than any government program. And we showed the world that loyalty, real loyalty, can never be conditioned out of a warrior's heart." Rex moved closer and rested his head on Axel's chest, in the exact position he'd held during their last night together in Afghanistan, before the mission that was supposed to have killed him. For the first time in 3 years, both partners slept without nightmares. Because sometimes the greatest betrayals lead to the greatest victories. Sometimes the bonds that seem most broken are actually the strongest of all. And sometimes coming home means fighting through hell to find each other again. The pack was complete, the brotherhood was restored, and 47 heroes had learned that no matter how far they fall, no matter who betrays them, their real family will never stop fighting to bring them home. For Rex, who taught us that love recognizes love even through 3 years of conditioning. For 46 other stolen heroes who proved that warriors never truly forget who they are. For every military working dog still serving, and every veteran who knows that the strongest bonds are forged in service and sealed in sacrifice. For Jake Morrison, Bruno's family, and every handler who never stopped grieving. Your partner never stopped fighting to come home. Welcome to the Midnight Squad, where brotherhood means no hero gets left behind. Not in war, not in peace, not ever. 4 voices that howled defiance in the darkness, 47 hearts that remembered loyalty stronger than conditioning. 1 promise kept across 3 years of betrayal. Good soldiers never forget their brothers. And the greatest victory isn't winning the war, it's bringing everyone home. We want to hear what you felt while listening to this story. Don't forget to comment and rate the story out of 10.